Have you ever bought something only to realize later that you were totally overcharged? Or maybe you were sold a defective product, or got just terrible service from a hospital or a government office, and you were left feeling, well, completely powerless? Trust me, you are definitely not alone. It's this universal, deeply frustrating feeling to be exploited as a consumer, especially when the other side seems so much bigger and way more powerful than you are.
So welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. We're going to take a structured deep dive into a vitally important chapter of our lives, and that is consumer rights. Our core mission today is pretty simple. We're going to transform the legal text from our source material into a practical, everyday roadmap. We're going to look at exactly how markets operate, how they can sometimes fail us, and most importantly, the specific tools that you have to navigate them and actually seek justice.
All right, so here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. Unequal markets, 2. The right to safety, 3. The right to information, 4. The right to choose, 5. Seeking justice, and wrapping up with 6. Empowered consumers. Let's dive right in.
Starting off with Section 1, Unequal Markets and Exploitation.
Think about it like this. As individual consumers, we're kind of scattered, right? But on the flip side, you've got these massive producers and giant corporations with huge amounts of wealth, power, and reach. And because of this inherent imbalance, consumers frequently face pretty unequal situations. You know the drill. You might get stuck with a defective product, get squeezed by crazy high interest rates from informal moneylenders, trapped by hidden terms in a sneaky contract, or subjected to forced sales. Now, sure, rules and regulations do exist, but poor enforcement means companies often just get away with negligence and tricks. This unequal dynamic, that is exactly why consumer protection is just so absolutely essential.
Moving right along to Section 2, the right to safety.
To really grasp this, let's step away from the legal jargon for a second and look at a real-life case from our source material. This is Reggie Matthews' story, and it's frankly heartbreaking. Reggie was a healthy Class 9 student who went into a private clinic in Kerala for a totally routine procedure, just getting his tonsils removed. An ENT surgeon performed the operation under general anesthesia. But due to severe negligence and the improper administration of that anesthesia by the hospital staff, Reggie suffered major brain damage. A totally routine surgery literally crippled a young student for life.
But here is the crucial takeaway. Reggie's family didn't just accept this as a tragic accident. They fought back using what's called the right to safety. This specific right ensures that consumers are protected against the marketing of goods and the delivery of services that are hazardous to life and property. Because they had this legal right, Reggie's father filed a complaint, and eventually, the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission stepped in. They held the hospital completely responsible for medical negligence and ordered them to pay compensation. It just goes to show producers and service providers absolutely must follow safety rules.
All right, that brings us to Section 3. The right to information. Just like we did with Reggie, let's look at another very human experience. Meet Amrita. She's an engineering graduate who did everything right, submitted all her certificates, crushed an interview for a job in a government department, and then just nothing. Crickets. She waited endlessly for answers. The officials literally refused to tell her a single thing about the interview results. You can probably imagine that deeply frustrating feeling, right? Just hitting a massive bureaucratic wall where the people in charge completely refuse to communicate.
Well, Amrita didn't just give up and accept that wall. She utilized the Right to Information Act, which was enacted back in 2005. This law ensures that citizens can legally access information about the functions of government departments. So, Amrita filed an RTI application, plainly stating that it was her right to know the result. And you know what? It actually worked. The department was forced to inform her that she had in fact been selected, and she finally got her appointment letter. You have the fundamental right to be informed, guys, not just about government functions, but about the ingredients, the expiry dates, and even the side effects of the basic products you buy every day.
Which leads us nicely into Section 4, the right to choose. Have you ever been hit with one of those super annoying ultimatums at a store? Like, imagine going to a shop just to buy a simple tube of toothpaste. But the shop owner looks at you and says, "Yeah, I'll only sell you this toothpaste if you also buy this toothbrush." Or maybe you go to get a new gas connection for your home, and the dealer insists you have to buy a brand new stove directly from them just to get the gas. These are totally unfair ultimatums. They're forced bundle deals, plain and simple.
And legally speaking, you absolutely do not have to put up with them. This is called the right to choose. Basically, any consumer who receives a service, in whatever capacity, regardless of your age, your gender, or the nature of the service itself, has the right to choose whether to continue to receive that service. You cannot be forced into buying things you don't want just to get the one thing you actually do want. If your choice is being denied, your rights are actively being violated.
Okay, let's move to Section 5, Seeking Justice and Redressal.
Let's follow the journey of a guy named Prakash. He heads down to the post office to send a basic money order to his daughter. Simple enough, right? But when he finds out the money somehow never reached her, he is met with a total brick wall. He calls, he inquires, but the post office gives him absolutely no satisfactory response. They just start ignoring his perfectly valid queries.
So, what's Prakash going to do? He doesn't just write off the money. His very first move is to seek out some advice. He goes to a local consumer protection council. Now, these are voluntary organizations that specifically guide consumers on how to file cases. And this is such a vital first step toward legal redressal. The main takeaway here? You don't have to figure it all out on your own.
This highlights something incredibly important. The path to justice is actually a clear, step-by-step process that anyone can navigate. After getting some solid advice, Prakash goes to a Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission to formally file a case and fill out a registration form. Get this, he didn't even need a lawyer. He pleaded the case himself. Then, the judge verifies the documents, hears the arguments from both sides, and finally announces the verdict. The whole system is deliberately designed to be accessible to you.
And finally, Section 6, Becoming an Empowered Consumer.
So what does it mean to be empowered? It literally just means shifting from being a passive buyer to becoming an active, super aware consumer. You can adopt these everyday habits right now. Always look for quality assurance marks like ISI or AgMark before you buy anything. Constantly check expiry dates. And hey, if a product is close to expiring, insist on a fresh packet. When a gas cylinder is delivered to your house, weigh it yourself. And above all else, always demand a proper bill. Because without a receipt, you have literally zero proof of purchase if things go wrong later.
Now, we do need a quick reality check here. While the consumer rights movement has made massive strides in India, it's definitely not perfect. The source material makes a point to impartially note that the consumer redressal process can still sometimes be pretty cumbersome, expensive, and definitely time-consuming. You might have to make multiple frustrating visits to the commission office, and honestly, sometimes, despite what I just said about Prakash, cases get complex enough that consumers feel forced to hire lawyers, which obviously costs money. Even gathering evidence, like cash memos, can be tough if you didn't ask for one up front. The system is there, but it definitely requires your patience and a lot of persistence.
There is a very famous slogan, Jago Grahak Jago, wake up consumer, wake up. The laws are on the books, the redressal commissions are in place and ready, but they are completely useless if you don't actually use them. So I want to leave you with this somewhat provocative thought. The next time you are cheated, are you just going to grumble to yourself and accept it as your fate? Or will you wake up, assert your rights, and demand what you absolutely deserve? The choice, as always, is yours. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep staying curious.